Hi guys, welcome to my first video. Alright, this is going to be a portrait edit within Photoshop. So I've opened up my raw files in here and I'm going to edit this lovely model here. So I'm just going to drag that open to Photoshop CS5 where it will open in the raw file. So here it is, my beautiful model shot. So this was taken at some waterfalls early in the morning. I was using off-camera flash. You can still see through the head there. I've got some shadows coming in from the lights. A little bit of cleaning up to do, some highlighting of the makeup, and maybe some vinaigrette. Anyway, let's zoom back out, and I'll show you how I edit. So starting off, I normally would do this in Lightroom, but for the sake of you guys, I thought I'd do this in Photoshop and using Camera Raw. Alright, so overall, let's play with my colour balance, my white balance. I was actually pretty happy with where that was. I always like to slide my sliders from one end to the other and find that happy balance, which is about there. It was at 5500, so I've actually increased it by 200 because I've gone to 5700. Same with my tints, green, pink, I'll just slide them backwards and forwards until I start to see that colour I want. So we're at +6 now. Alright, so pretty much with raw conversions here, I'll work my way down. Now I am using Camera Raw 6.7 because I use Photoshop CS5. Most of you are probably using CS6. Being PI students, you should have got the latest version with the discount. I just can't justify the upgrade at the moment. So let's have a play. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the exposure here. Alright, recovery recovers the highlight. So if you slide it backwards and forwards, if you look at the water in the background, say down here, you can see it starts to bring back some of that detail. And now for this image, there isn't too much white to bring back. So I'm actually going to lower that down. Feel like that will brighten some of the dark, bring back some of the areas in the dark. That'll recover the dark. And if you see, if I recover it too much down here, you can see I actually had some flare come through, which I didn't see before. So I've got to make sure I reduce that down and keep my blacks up. If I keep my blacks up, the feel like it's bringing back the details, but the blacks keeps them black rather than turning them grey. I can boost the contrast a little bit, which I actually prefer to do on pretty much all of my images. And clarity is like bringing back detail. It's almost like a little bit of sharpening. In fact, if you go in and use the adjustment brush tool, let me zoom in here first. If you go in and use the adjustment brush tool and using my square bracket keys, I'll lower it down. So I've made a selection there. Let's show mask. Let's change the colour to red. There we go. So you can see where my selection is. Keep brushing around, or keep brushing over her skin here. I'm only doing this roughly because I'm going to actually delete it because I don't want to do this, but I just wanted to show you something. So I've got this in just in quick mask, which is why it's in red. Don't worry, I'm not actually painting red. So I'll turn that mask off now. But what you can actually do, if I reset that to 0, I'm only working on where I've brushed over now with the adjustment brush. So if I hover over there, you can start to see that red come in. But just lower that clarity right down. Look at that. I'll smooth out the skin. Probably a little bit too much. I'll probably bring it back a little bit. But I've done half my work for Photoshop. I'm actually going to do that for the sake of this edit because I want to show you some tricks within Photoshop to fix that. You can see I've got some stray hairs here that I will also fix up, so I'll just get rid of my adjustment brush there, and we'll just zoom back out for you to see, and just switch off my adjustment brush. So we've set the white balance, we've set the contrast, we've boosted the clarity, vibrance will actually boost the colours, give it some pop, saturation, adjust the colours and how much colour you want in there. Because of that flare, I'm not actually going to add any in there. Then we can work on our curves, sharpening. I I don't tend to do too much of this in my raw. I tend to stay in this first panel unless, for example, I might be working on a HDR. I will do it in here. You'll have them all open in the left hand side here, and then I'll save all the images. Alright, now you see here it says open object. Yours might say open image. So if I bring open my window open, sorry guys, I work on multiple monitors, but you can see I've got it as Adobe RGB, 16-bit channels, pictures, and I say open in smart objects. If I turn that off, you see it's now open image. You can actually hold your shift key and that toggles between, but I always open as a smart object, and I'll show you why in a second. So I've got my raw conversions I'm pretty happy with, so I'll open my object. And that'll open up in Photoshop. There we go. Control 0 just to bring it back in. And you see I have my background as a dark grey. You can change that custom colours, light grey, black, and custom. And you can select your custom colour to pretty much whatever you want. I like mine at dark grey because it separates it. So this is a smart object. So if I double click that, it'll actually reopen it back in RAW, which is quite handy when you want to do a double RAW conversion. So let's say I wanted to RAW edit all that background and then wanted to do another RAW edit of just her face. I could do that and master too. Right, so this is, I want to duplicate this layer. I'm going to duplicate new smart object via copy. Now, if I just undo that, go back into my history, if I just duplicate layer, I've got another smart object. If I go and change this one, it changes them both. But if I go and duplicate as a new smart object via copy, now right click, new smart object via copy, if I go and adjust that one, it now works independent. Alright, so I'm going to rename this to original, because that's my original file that I want to work on. I'm going to rasterize this layer, which converts it to a normal layer, and I want to call this Retouch, because my first step is my retouching. So I go over to my navigator, and I can zoom in here, and I'm ready to go. Now I work with the healing brush tool, adjust my size, use my square brackets, hold down my Alt key and sample. Now I might just zoom in a bit more there so you can see a little bit more detail. So you see how it turns into crosshairs when I sample. That's where I'm taking my sample from, and gone. Now if you look at my brushes, hardness is absolutely 0%, and I'm using my sample. So I'm going to line down some marks there. Now this is a beauty shot, so I can be pretty heavy-handed with my edit. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going through and holding down my Alt key and cleaning up some of these blemishes. You can see she's got some lines across here, so I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool, and I'm going to change that to lighten, and I'm going to minimize that down again. I'm going to sample again, and I'm just going to brush down, and that's just lightening that. Good for just lightening. I'm not actually cloning anything out, I'm just lightening it. So they're not blemishes that I need to remove like these are. I'm just lightening those lines. And just go back now to my healing brush. I'm just going to clean up here. There's some hair in here that I don't want. And just keep cleaning up these blemishes a little bit. And keep working. See how it went over, so I had to stop and go back. Just got to make sure you see the crosshair is following my lines. there, and this hair's here. Oops, just copy Jason and drag down. Copy again, drag down. There's a blemish there, and that's why I stopped there. So I'm being a little bit heavy because, as I said to you, this is a beauty shot. Normally, if it was just a portrait, my rule of thumb is for removing blemishes, if they're going to be there the next week, then they will stay. If they're just a couple of days away from disappearing, then I'll take them away. So basically, I won't remove anything that's permanent unless I'm asked to, with the exception being model shots, beauty shots, because, well, I want them to look perfect. As we all know from all the photoshopping magazines, we want them to be absolutely Mickey Mouse. So, a few freckles, I'm just cleaning up here. Just take your time with the retouching, work small, zoom in, get a lot better results. Don't be afraid to resample lots of different areas, and keep working across from there. Just keep working your way in with those retouches, work your way in, go over it multiple times if need be, just to work your way in. Just get the colours right, the tones right. You don't want to try and make it look too fake. It's just crosshairs, just follow my mouse down, so right click, I brought up another line there, so just go over that one again, bring it to a chance, little imperfections here. Just going to change back to my clone stamp tool, still online, just double check that, and I'll work back under her eye there. I think we're done. Just a couple under here. Eyebrow, double there. And we'll turn there. Now let's have a look. I'm going to zoom in on her eye here. And just get rid of some of those blood vessels. A little bit smaller, and just go get rid of some of these. Just have a look at that nose. It's always good to pay attention to that nose, especially with models. We all know we get an oily area. I think we're done. Go, Control 0 to, oops, why did that work? Control 0, no, didn't work. Let's zoom back out, and let's have a look at what we did. Really just did some retouch, and I can still see a little bit there, so if I zoom down, I was able to find that. Okay, alright. So there we go, that's my retouch layer done. Okay, so now I want to bring in my levels. So I want to get my levels right. Now you can see my histogram is creeping off with the white, not surprised. I've got these hot spots back here, so I'm not too worried. But what I do, double click on there, and I will set my RGB to 10 to 10. Okay, and yes, I want that by default. I should reset these for the sake. So this is setting my black point. So my black point is not perfect black, because you can't print perfect black. So I set up less than perfect black, and I do the same with my whites. So they've set up perfect white, so 245 245, brings them down, so it's only a slight change. And say I never have to set that again because I've set it. Now, if we grab our black point, we can click there and we can set our black point to whatever we want. But what I'm going to do is add in a threshold layer to show you how to find black. Switch over to your, hold this mouse down here, click over to my color sampler tool, and then just hold down my Alt key. I'm going to slide that back. And you can see I'm starting to see some colour down here now. So if I zoom down there, whoops, grab my colour sampler tool and click in. Zoom back out, and now I'll find my white points, which, as I said, remember that hotspot right there. So now I've set those points, I can delete my threshold layer, turn on my levels, bring open my adjustment panel, and I will zoom right in here, right in on that pixel, 100% on that pixel, and Control 0, and I will do the same with my white. I don't need to zoom in because it's pretty central, and that's my black point. So now you see these numbers here, how do you get rid of them? Bring back in and hit clear. So how much work did that do? Let's have a look. Yeah, just set my blacks, brought back my tones a little bit, and I'm quite happy with that. Right, so next thing we want to do is some dodging and burning. Now I do this to pretty well all my portraits. I'm going to darken that back there because it's just a little bit bright for me. I don't want to use a vignette because I want to keep some of that colour in the hat around here. So I'm going to just use my brush to darken it a little bit. Alright, so how do we do that? Well, we excuse me. Alright, we add a new layer. Alright, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I'll show you this way. First, new layer, Control A, then hit your M, right click and fill with 50% grey, okay, and set it to soft light. Done. Another way is Shift Control N, because if I go layer, new layer, Shift Control N, brings open this dialog box. We set the blend mode to soft light, and then we can click fill with 50% grey. Done, and we've got the same layer. If I turn that to normal, it's exactly the same thing. Soft light. Either way, it works. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use our brush tool to bring about some highlights and some shadows. So I'm going to open my navigator back here, zoom right in on the face, and grab my brush tool. I'm going to set it right down. It's a bit better, and change my opacity to 9%. Alright. With this, you can just press, so if I press your numbers, so if I press 2, 20%, 30%, oops, 30%, 45%, and 09, 9%. If you just hit 9, it's going to take you 90%, so 09. Leave your blend mode to normal, flow to thing, and we're good to go. So I'm going to firstly bring up those in white. I'm painting in white. Wherever I'm painting in white, it's going to brighten. Actually, what I'll do, I'll show you how much I'll change my opacity to 100%. See, that's painting white, that's brightening it. And if I switch to black, using my X key switches between the toggles between the two. And if I use black, oops, black, that darkens it. And if I switch that to normal, you can see where that is there. Right. So I'm just going to delete that layer. Go Shift Control N. I'll name that D and B for dodge and burn. I'm going to change that to soft light, fill with grey, and OK, and I'm ready to go. Alright, so first thing we need to do is I'm just going to, whoops, Control Z, I got 100%, change to 9%, and I'm just tapping it in, just click, 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 click. I'm just adding some contrast into her hair, through here, just going to bring in some of those shadows. Some shadows on those cheekbones and around her nose, bring it there, just around that bottom of that chin. I'm actually going to go up to the shadow was just a little bit too much. Expect a little bit coming through that brim of that hat, but like I said, it's that little bit too much. It was enough for me, so I'm just going to punch in here. Get back my black, I'm just going to lower it down, and I'm just going to go around her lips. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in some highlights on her hair. Oops, I've still got 15. No wonder. So you've got to watch it. Brushing on there, like 9 back at 9. So just bringing in some highlights into her hair. Right, now open up her eyes. Alright, let's zoom out because remember I said I wanted. Let's have a look how that's going. Actually, there you go. So you can see what I've done. Make a difference? Yeah, just a little bit. Let's have a look. Just brings it back. Beautiful. There's some definition in her cheeks. But what I'm going to do now, as I said, I want to darken up here, so I'm going to switch over to black. I'm just going to go back up to 15%. And I'm not brushing. I'm just clicking. So I went over that area there, that was because that is where the burn is. Right, so if I turn this layer back to normal, you can see, oops, normal, there we go. You can see where I've darkened and where I've brightened, so you can see I've put in some detail around her lips. I probably put a little bit too much shadow in that, which I thought I could see when I was looking at it, so I'm just going to bring that back. Just hide it back up again and say look on that lip. Hide some of that back on the lip. Just see where I've darkened around here, just make click. So let's change that back to soft lights and zoom back out. See the whole image. There we go. Alright, so what do we want to do now? I'm just playing this one by ear, so really have a think. I suppose we want to do some black pop. Alright, stamp visible, Control Alt Shift E, or go into here and go new layers from visible. Where is it? New layers from visible, don't know where it is. Where is it? Can't find it. Where is it? Not there. Layer. New. No, can't find it. Anyway, Control Alt Shift E. I never really use the buttons. I use that shortcut because it's so easy. It's ingrained in my memory. And what that does is that gives us that layer. Gives us one layer of all those edits below. So all my layers remain there, and that does not make it different. But now I've got this one to work on. So we are going to do an eye pop, aren't we? So let's zoom in on her eyes. There, she's got beautiful eyes. So let's go filter, other, high pass, and here's my high pass editor. Okay, so what am I looking for when I'm doing a high pass filter? So if we scroll that right down, well, we've got nothing. We're not bringing out the detail in anything, so we'll just keep bringing that up. And we're starting to get details around the eyes, but we're not getting anything in the eyes, which is where we are sharpening with this at the moment. I'm sharpening her eyes. So I'm bringing it back up, and you can start to see now, I'm starting to bring details back into there. Keep going, and I think that's too much. Okay, it's about right, I think. 9.8. And then we can change that to overlay. We can change that to soft light. So, and then we can go linear light. So linear light is extreme, overlays medium, and soft light is soft. I generally leave it in the soft light area, but we don't want to do that to the whole image, so I'll hold down my Alt key and I'll click on the mask, which gives me a black mask. The other option is layer, layer mask, and hide all. Alright, white, bring up my opacity to 100% and look at that detail in our eyes. So let's zoom back out. Pretty happy with that. Just going to zoom back in. Okay, so what if it was too sharp? I would just lower the opacity to lower the effect. What if it's not sharp enough? Duplicate your layer. Duplicate your layer. Now it's too sharp, lower the opacity. In fact, I like that, so I'm going to go Control G. I'm going to name that layer I sharpen. Oops, can't stop. I sharpen. There we go. So let's go. We've got the original, we've got the retouch, we've got the levels to set our black point, a bit of dodging and burning, and now we've sharpened our eyes. So now what I want to do with our eyes. Alright, so let's go colour balance. Midtones. First thing I want to do is go Control I, and here we are just working on this area here. Just click in there and let's see what I want to do with these eyes. So I change, it's going to change the colour. Brown eyes, change that. She's got such nice eyes anyway. Change my hardness to 50%, close enough. So let's zoom out. How's that look? My eyes probably a little bit too much. I'll roll that down. Yeah. Show you again. Let's have a look. Zoom in. And so we're done. Just increase that just a little bit. I'll name that the eye colour. Now I'm going to do a Control Alt Shift N, Control Z, D and B iris, soft light, and fill the grey. So back into another dodge and burn, and I'm going to zoom right in on the eyes here, and I'm going to grab my brush, set my opacity to 10%. Here's the thing, with when you're brushing in shadows, you can have your opacity a lot higher, so it's a lot stronger. The whites, you need to bring it back, because whites the lower the opacity is the better results. If you bring it up to the equivalent of a black, you're just going to white out your image. Anyway, I'm leaving remember I set my hardness to 50%. I'm actually going to leave it at that, 50%. And what I'm going to do, hold my brush right down. Layer, and I'm just going to go quick and easy linear contrast, Control I, and bring up my brush 100% in black, and in white, sorry, and brush over 100%, brush over, and bring back some contrast. Some contrast into those eyes. So now if we go Control 0, there's a beautiful contrast in those eyes, and now those eyes are really grabbing. So I'm going to rename that high contrast, and I'm going to group those layers. Control G to group, F2, and name them eyes. So that's what we did with our eyes and all that. You can see now that's made a bit of a difference. So what do? We changed the colour, we did some dodging and burning, we increased the contrast, and we sharpened them. Okay, so now I want to work on the mouth. Alright, so mouth. Now normally I would do some liquify to get her mouth to where I'd want it. For the sake of this, I'm not going to because I'm not going to actually know them. So stamp visible again. Rename this layer lips. Control Shift X, and that should bring up my liquify. Should do. It's coming. It's coming. Here it comes. Alright. Brush. Zoom in. Zoom in. Okay, so. Alright, so we're working on our lips. I'm just going to be pushing this around now. When I'm working on the lips, bring my brush size down. That's better. Whenever you're liquefying anywhere, join it from the out and just push it in. Reshape it. Keep it nice and simple. Not pushing it too much. I just want to reshape that bottom lip. I'm just going to bring that detail there. Didn't want to bring it too much because then I'll start dragging that nose down. So I want to start it above the lip and bring it down, but I don't want to start dragging that nose down. I'm liking that a little bit better, so I'm going to click OK. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, much prefer that. Okay. Alright, so now we want to go curves. Now, in this case, I'm actually boosting the colour, not the contrast of her lips, so they're pink. So I'm going to bring that red up a little bit. And I'm going to bring the green down just a touch. And I'm going to bring the blue down about the same. Which rules the whole picture, but we'll invert that mask. So we hide all that, we bring back our white brush, opacity 100%, and I'm going to start brushing over her mouth. And you can see now the sort of result we're getting. Now that I've done that, brushed over, you can see I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that at all. And I'm just going to bring back my black mask. I'm just going to paint in here. Just hide that colour in that shadow there. Alright, so let's go back to a red. I want a little bit less. That's a bit better. For the colour. Control 0. That's way out of whack, but that's okay because we haven't finished with it yet. Oops, what do we want? I want colour burn. Yeah, that's what we want. And now I'm going to change the opacity. Just a little bit. Now that I've done that, enough on a fan of the I'm not liking how I liquefied it now that I'm looking at it. I'm actually going to delete that liquefy layer. Now which means I just have to delete that mask. I'm just going to redo it. Just because I did it to the lips before. Next. Push that back in there, those lips. So we're back to her original lips. In the end I didn't like my liquefy result. Thought it looked a little bit fake. So I decided not to go for it. Now I'm just going to bring back her lips. Control 0 again. And I'm just going to lower that opacity just that little bit. Pull that lips. Then I'm starting to like the way this image is taking shape. I don't know what else I can do. I suppose I could teach you my skin smoothing technique. I don't think I need to do it here because my lighting was pretty good, so I'm fairly happy with it. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I am going to teach you it. So, what do? Alright, stamp visible. Call this screen. And we change, and we go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. So like I said, it went to monitors, 32 pixels. Okay, and we change that to screen. Beautiful. Then we go Control J, we duplicate it, we rename it to darken, and we set that blend mode to darken. We click on the two links and we right click and we go link layers, and we Control G to put them into a group, and we call this skin smoothing, and we add a blank mask to that whole group. Done. Easy. We're finished. We've done it. That's it. That's all it is to smooth out the skin. Grab my brush, we're at white, at 100%. I'm going to change my hardness down to 0. I'm going to increase my brush size, and we just brush over the skin. Oops, I forgot. Sorry guys. Change each one of these to 50 and 50. Better. That looks a bit better. Still a little bit OTT, but don't worry about that at the moment, and you can really see really going in and smoothing the skin out, so it looks really fake and horrible. Yes, I said it, fake and horrible, but okay. Quite happy with that. Now I think I've seen this, the person that taught me this technique, I'm pretty sure they got it from a action called Mama's Powders. Don't hold me to that, I'm only guessing. Works for me, and I like it. So if Mama's Powders did do it, thanks for letting me know this technique. And now I actually have all this as actions, guys, and it's pretty straightforward to run as your own action. Alright, so there we have it. Looks horrible. Let's click on that mask, and you can see where we've softened. We can go in and just touch up that area there. That would have been a jawline. I think we should have left that. So let's put a jaw in there. Under eyes. There we go. Like that. Now we just lower this opacity, probably to around, let's have a look. Yeah, 60%. Zoom in. There we go. So we do have some texture back in there. We still have some texture. If I zoomed in more, you can see there's texture in there, but it is smooth. So it is looking pretty good now. So now we've done that, it looks too much soft, too soft. Just going to lower that down again. Just turn that group off. So just lower it down to 40. For this one, I'm going to lower it down to 40 because, as I said, her skin's pretty smooth. When the skin's not very smooth, you might find you'll be up at 60%, which I'm pretty sure my action saves this group at a 60% opacity, and then I just tweak it from there. Alright, what else do we need to do? Thinking she's a little bit cool now that I've done all that, so I might just add a photo filter, just a bit of a warming filter, just to warm her up a bit. And I'm going to delete that mask, hold down my Alt key and bring that mask back in. And so now it's just her that's warmed, and I'm going to go down here. Just only warming her face up really. And I'll just get the mouse and just brush me. Brings in a little bit more warmth, not too much, just a tad. Oh, and I'm just going to change that to warm. That's it, and that's how last step is, as always, is a sharpening filter. So once again, stamp visible, Control Alt Shift E, other high pass. Now I'm looking at the whole image, and yeah, liking that. Not too much detail in the eyes, a little bit in the mouth, but mostly on the hair. And just change that to soft light. There we go. And we'll change that to hide HP sharpen. So let's have a look. I'll just minimise my, so turning all this off. So there's our original. Alright, so then we went in and we retouched, we cleaned up some of the blemishes. Then I set the black point and the white point, did some dodge and burn, then we tweaked the eyes, then we did the lips, we did some skin softening, and then we warmed it up a little bit, and then we sharpened the final image. And last but not least, my client, she wants this as a 5" by 7" and 240 pixels. So I'm just going to drag that out. There we go, 5x7. There we have it. So file, I will now save this as the model example. Save. Now I'm actually going to zip this up and allow you guys to get it for a download, and we'll go from there. So what I'm going to do is just so you can see it before and after. No, I won't do that, but that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this, hope you got a lot out of it, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.